Quick review for Cover Up 2025 Netflix documentary that I enjoyed watching. I liked it. Although I never heard of this guy before, but like in the documentary, he when he starts out in the documentary, he sounds sort of promising type figure that he had. But I guess it's when you live a long life, when your life's so long, you're bound to have some controversy come up. But he sounds like he starts out pretty good in his journalistic career. He's a journalist. That's what he is. He's a famous journalist. And but I guess towards the latter half of he has some scandal with some letters from that. I guess but I guess he didn't substantiate. Is that the word? He didn't what's the word? Clarify that they were authentic or so, or perhaps everybody thought they were real, but then it turned out they're fake. So this guy faked these letters from JFK, Marilyn Monroe. It sounded like, to me, that's what it just was, because I was kind of falling asleep at this point in the film. But if I recall correctly, basically these letters that supposedly were in between the two lovers, which I don't know if it's disputed. I think they probably did have an affair for sure, but maybe you can question whether or not these letters were legit part of the affair. But I guess they did cheat, he was doing that with her, but it could be debated on whether or not those letters are authentic, and I guess apparently they're not authentic. But they mentioned that part, and then I like when he gets kind of frustrated and angry at that point, and not angry like that, but he gets little, and he cut the cameras. He always cut the cameras, and I like the B-roll footage they use in the Cover Up documentary, when they have these moments of calm quietness, and it's just like an ambient scene of an urban environment. I'm guessing he lives in DC too. He lives in the District of Columbia, Washington, the capital, right? What else? I like when it talks about his wife. His wife was a psychoanalyst. That's the word. Psychoanalyst. Whatever that's supposed to mean. I'm not quite. I feel like I've heard that term before, but I have no idea what it even means, what it entails. But that's what the wife was. And because they asked him some personal, it's not just about his journalistic career, but they got some personal epithets from him, and one of them was his wife, and it sounded like they were married for a long time. Actually, they showed a picture of them old together, so they were married for a very long time. And this guy was away. This guy would fly in an airplane. He would go here and there to do stories, so he was away sometimes, which I'm wondering, maybe that took a toll on their marriage or so. But he never mentioned. It sounds like maybe she also was a professional in her own right, whatever she did. And so they might have both had sort of consuming work lives, perhaps. And what do you call with this? But the wife's not in a documentary. It makes me think that maybe she's passed away. Maybe she's not alive anymore. Maybe she's passed. Because he's quite old. You can see in the documentary he's quite elderly. And when you don't see her, it makes you think, oh, maybe she passed away. Or she's not alive anymore. And I remember his dad he's Jewish, half Jewish, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know if the mom, he didn't really talk about his mother, but he did mention his father, I guess. And he mentioned his dad. He never really talked to you unless you were angry. Oh my God, what else he said? I guess that was it. Unless you were angry, he never really talked to you. The dad wasn't, I guess, a neglectful parent to some extent. He was not presently there. And I remember he mentioned he didn't even know his dad was dying. He didn't even know he was dying until he came home from the shop, because his dad had a dry cleaning shop that I think we're in South Bend, Indiana. I want to say we're in Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a shop in the predominantly black area of town. This is also another interesting story with this, that he mentioned. I think it was one of the workers, one of the employees was a black person, and the guy would take him to go see baseball games. He mentioned that he got to see all the great black baseball players before they hit the big leagues, before they became famous. He got to see them play, actually. And that was a result of getting to go to the games as a kid, by escort, by being invited by this other guy that worked there. But the guy mentioned something to him that, you're the right color. that he's going to be pressing pants for the rest of his life. He's not going to, this is it. This is my job. I got it. I'm going to hold on to it. And this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. But you're white. You got to have more opportunities that they're not going to afford to me. And he mentioned documentary, like, as a kid, he was old enough that he understood what he meant with those comments, what he was talking about. I thought that was a nice little excerpt there. It was interesting. What else happens in this film? I'm trying to think. What else happens in this? Oh yeah, the dad. He came home from the shop one day, and the light, I guess the bedroom where the dad sleeps, where the dad stays, it was off. The light was off. And so that to him communicated, that he was dead. He said, I knew he was dead when I saw that the light was out. I saw the light wasn't on. I knew, he died. But he mentioned, like, he didn't even know he was dying. He knew he was sick. He knew his dad was sick, but he didn't know it was that bad. Like, oh shit, the guy's actually dying. There was him and a twin brother. He had a twin brother, actually. And he mentioned that they used to dress each other alike, and the mom always dressed them alike. And at one point, they were like 10 or 11. They were like, what is this? This is ridiculous. Why are we dressing like why are you dressing like we the same person? But it's like mandatory, right? It's like, you're twins. We're going to do that to you. And then another cute thing was he joined a book club. He said books helped him, taught him how to think, is what his words were. Books taught me how to think. Because he realized at home he was not getting any education. That's what he said in the documentary. I'm not receiving any education in the home, only in school. So if I want to further educate myself, I'm going to have to do it like myself. And he mentioned the dad apparently told him that his brother can go off to college. I guess because the brother, he didn't see the brother to run the shop. So he can go off to college. He's going to go and do that. But he's like, no, but you got to run the shop because you can do it. You can, I guess, the dad's just saying the hard reality. Like, you have the skills to manage it. This guy doesn't. So I don't want that guy in there. He can go to college and try to get himself in order. But it was like, I think he even mentions in the documentary, it was sort of like a saving grace in a sense, because it sounds like, had his father been alive, I guess he would have taken up maybe running the shop. Perhaps he would have rebelled eventually, but he would have run the shop for a little bit longer. Had it not been that he died, then he didn't need the shop anymore, actually. He didn't need to do the shop. He went to a junior college. And it was at that college he wrote something. He said he wrote something in some class, and the teacher called him by name, called him up. He said, called him up too. And he just knew. He knew at that moment the reason he was calling him up was it was profound. Like, it was, this is some talent here. You got some talent right here. What are you doing here? What are you doing in this one? You should be in one of these bigger schools. And he talks about when he goes to the big college, and he talks about how he had a girlfriend at the college, and the girlfriend's dad worked for, what was it, Eisenhower? I think it was Eisenhower or Lyndon B. Johnson. It was one of these guys. What do you call? Well, no, it has to be, maybe it was Lyndon B. Johnson, actually. But he mentions how the girlfriend's father would talk shit about the president. Like, he worked for the president, whoever he was at the time. But he talked shit about it. He said, I don't think this guy's all this and that, but it's whatever. I mean, he's my boss. I'm getting paid to work for him. But and this for him was like an eye-opening moment of like, wow, you can shit talk the president? It didn't occur to him that this was like a sort of, you can do this. You can talk shit about him. His dad was from Lithuania. That's what it was. It wasn't Poland. It was from Lithuania. I think it was sure in World War II, Lithuania, there was no Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. I don't think so. I think they were a separate country by then, perhaps. But if I'm mistaken, his dad specifically was from Lithuania. He was Lithuanian, Eastern European guy. And he was a Jew. And he actually had gone to Hamburg and got on a ship to come to the United States. I think it was, he might have came before the Holocaust, before these killing of Jewish people started. It might have happened. He might have basically narrowly escaped having been a statistic in the Jewish people that were murdered by the Germans in this time. But That was interesting. Him talking about like his dad and how and he didn't speak any English. His dad came to the United States. He didn't know any English. He don't know English for shit. I'm guessing he never. He probably perhaps had an accent when he spoke, and for sure is it. And when he mentioned the dad was cold, the way he was, it was, unless he was angry at you, he never talked to you. He didn't really talk to you. The mom, he mentioned the mom will bake cookies. Well, not bake cookies. She will buy cookies and say that she baked them. And he talked about like, she didn't think we know the difference, I guess, but we knew the difference when versus a cookie you baked it versus you brought this from the store. You didn't bake shit. What else I was gonna say? I was thinking of something else as well. Oh my god, what was I thinking of? Thinking of something. I guess I liked his personal life part more than the journalist part. I mean, he had many different stories. He had one story from Vietnam with this soldier. It's like William Kelly. That's what, like William Calley. That's what it was. William Calley. William something Calley. There's actually a Battle Hymn song. There were people that, it wasn't this massacre thing came out that he did this, very horrific. Even it sounds maybe like hateful, racially motivated crime as well. But there were people having doubts about the legitimacy of it. Did it really happen like they said it did? And there was even a battle hymn. They played it in the documentary. It was a battle hymn cry for this guy, which was interesting. I remember when he mentioned he was spending to see a monster. He wanted to see, he kind of, I guess in his head, he sort of at a mission of like, I wanted to maybe see like, oh, that's a badass motherfucker. Like, this guy's scary. But he sees him, it's like, oh, this is the guy that supposedly is like, he said boyish, like a kind of a boyish sort of southerner kid. And this is the guy that killed this guy that did this really horrific thing. And he even goes to the South. They had this nice B-roll footage of like this 60s, I don't know what era, or 50s, I was thinking like 50s, 60s, of this B-roll footage of rural southern United States when they're, and I'm thinking when they're showing that footage, like, where did they get this footage from? They probably say in the credits. And even the credit, I like the end credit song that they had in the documentary. And I Shazammed it, and it gave me, it's a completely different song than what I was expecting. Maybe the artist is the same, so I'll have to like do a little deep dive on the artist. Perhaps I can find it. But oh my god, it was I like that ending song. And it didn't end, actually. The whole credits was the same track. I was thinking maybe it was gonna end, it'll play like a second song, because sometimes you do it in credits, they'll play like two different songs, right? Two tracks for it. But no, it kept up for pretty much the whole documentary, which is nice. I really like that. What else was I thinking in my head? I was thinking of something else. What was I thinking of? I had another thing in my head. That was one of the big ones that they talked about. He wrote books. He had more than one book. One of the books actually is called Cover Up. It's actually the name of the documentary, which I thought was cool too. But it was like Seymour. What was it? Sly. That's what it was. It was Sly Hirsch. I think it was Sly Hirsch, something like that. I don't know. And New York Times. He worked for the New York Times, and he mentioned when he left there was no, farewell party for him. Like, it had, I guess the relationship had soured. He wanted to start writing about big corporations and what the kind of the greed, the corruption that they would do, and that was somewhere they broke it. That's where, I guess, because when they do that, then they can get like lawsuits and shit. Maybe that's what they were kind of afraid. He talked about when it came to journalism and the papers. No paper wanted to be the first one to break a story. They wanted to wait for some of the other ones to break the story to see how they, hey, thank you. There's even a point. They talk about these two other journalists that were doing a story of the Watergate, like I think it was Richard Nixon, the whole Watergate scandal. And how do you call with Richard Nixon thing? Oh my god, what was I thinking of in my head? The Watergate scandal. That the two, I think it was Washington Post. He worked for Times, and the Washington Post did it first, the story, and the guy called them to say, hey, thank you for being such dummies and doing it first, because now you're in hot water, and who knows, maybe you got somebody and that's in a bad tale, it's somebody in the background And the government said, I don't like these journalists doing this story on us. I don't think I like it. But then he mentions it was like a friendly rivalry because each side will try to dig up the dirt as much as they can, and they would, how do you call it? They'll use that competition to encourage them to continue as part of it. I guess not just for moral justification, but also to like this friendly rivalry they had with it. What else did they have in this documentary? I guess there's so much. They never mentioned his kids' names. They showed pictures of the kids. And he had a daughter and a son. As far as I was concerned, he had 2 kids. And then actually they showed his dad's original surname and how he had changed it to Hirsch. But it was something completely, it was like more German, and they kind of short. I feel like Hirsch still sounds Germanic, I guess. But yeah, how he had changed his surname. And actually, they showed a picture, the picture that says like the government officially awarded him the right to change his name. Not the right, but I guess it was this cool card, and it's like, yeah, there's a card that even says like, yeah, you have your name changed, and that is okay, and yeah, you can change your name. But oh my god, what was I thinking of? I like this documentary. It was interesting, and the funny thing, I'll wrap it up like this. I worked the same day that I saw this documentary. I was working with a gentleman, and that's a different store, right? I went to a different store, and it's kind of nice when you can do this. You can work at a different store, see how it is over there. And this gentleman, his nickname was Sly. His nickname was Sly. And then I ended up watching a documentary right later in the day where what's it called? Oh my god, what was I thinking in my head? And then watching a documentary later in the day where the main subject's nickname, I think his name was Seymour, but he would go by Sly. His nickname was also, and this guy's nickname was Sly, and his nickname was also. So I thought that was kind of funny, right? The coincidence there, kind of coincidence. Sometimes I can't speak. But that concludes my cover-up review. Thank you for listening.